Hi there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Tuesday's Talk with Grada. Today, I really want to talk or speak to the parent, right? So if you were a parent or a grandparent, keep on listening to what I have to say. So the story really begins with the fact that your child is born with 400 personality traits or psychological traits that have nothing to do with you, because I'm sure you've often wondered when you look at your child or some behavior that pops up, that you think, well, where did that come from? Like, I didn't portray that, or my hubby didn't, or partner didn't, or where did I pick it up, right? So parents often have so much guilt in their body, and I actually want you to know that I do work with a lot of parents. I work with children as well. That's even more important. Lots of people don't know that I work with children, and the benefits are instant, right? And miraculous a lot of the time as well. So if you're struggling with children that have behavior or a difficulty or some sort of disorder or something that you feel uneasy about, please come and see me. But more than anything, as the parent, you need the upgrade or the energy upgrade yourself, right? So today I felt inspired to talk about this because, as you know, I'm a mom of 6 children. Some of you may not know that. My children are like 41 down to 30 now, all roughly more or less. And Pete and I together, we have 15 grandchildren as well. So I have been where you are, and looking at my life, when I came to Tasmania, I was young and everything was fresh. I married Pete at 19, age 19, left Holland, left Amsterdam, where we lived close by, and I really was so keen to have a family away from how my parents did it. And don't get me wrong, I love my parents, and they gave us a really, really good life. They were very loving and very safe in many ways, but from age of 10 or 11, I constantly wanted to run away. I just wanted to run away because I guess my father's parenting style was very authoritarian, and in Holland, women weren't valued as much as men. For instance, he didn't want us to go to university or things like that because we just had to be smart enough to be housewives when we grew up and stuff like that. That was the atmosphere I grew up in. And lots of things weren't talked about, like none of my parents' behaviors were ever open for discussion. So trauma happened, and it was never talked about, and it was always swept under the carpet. So I wanted to have a different parenting style to that. So, kind of a very long story short, so I started off very idealistic, incredibly idealistic. So I wanted to grow my own food. I wanted my children to have the best possible start they could have. I was always working, bettering myself. We chose to live somewhere in the back of beyond, like God's own country, it was actually called, at the end of a dirt road, stuck in the wilderness area. And then we carved out a life for ourselves there with 6 children. I always ate healthy, and I had natural childbirth, and I mean, I was very extreme looking in hindsight, because I didn't even have Panadol in the cupboard or nothing. And even though Peter was a nurse and worked in hospital, I stayed away from the medical world as well. I just felt like I want to do everything the natural way and give my kids the best start. So I want to get to the point though that, of course, my children still developed unwanted behaviors, right? So my dream every day, my dream of having a beautiful, harmonious family was dashed, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So over the years, I gathered a huge amount of guilt because I thought it's my parenting style is to blame for it, or maybe there's something wrong in me or Peter, and everything that went wrong with my children. Like, one child was born with psoriasis, like severe psoriasis. He actually already had it at birth. Another child was born with a cold, she had literally had a sinusitis already when she was born, and another child nearly died from epiglottitis, and he ended up in ICU in Launceston. I mean, we had so many dramas in our family, and the whole time I was kind of beating myself up, like thinking, I'm causing all this because I believed that when children were born, it's like a blank DVD, and I'm just writing the whole happy story on it, and if it's not happy, then I'm doing something wrong. So thankfully, we now live in the era of the internet. So, of course, I've been studying. It feels like many lifetimes ago that I was bringing up my children in the back of beyond. I'm 61 now, so I had my last one when I was 31, and I've learned so much since then. The most important message that I want to share today is that your children are not engineered by you, right? You're not the engineer. You're just the incubator. You're the container initially that they grow inside your tummy, and then you provide a safe container, hopefully, for them, for all those 400 personality or psychological traits to come out. And some of them are not nice, right? Because we're human beings. Some of them are messy. And our children have inherited those traits from from the genetics. Like sometimes when I work with my little clients, I have to clear something that might be 7 generations worth of an energy imprint. That's how strong it is, right? So our children are born with all their programming already written in their psyche or in their soul. And of course, working as a healer, I've been working as a healer now for 22 years, or 23 years even, and with my psychic abilities or intuition as well, I can see things that other people don't see. I now believe that our children were already present when we were born, right? Because where do we all come from? We all come from the ocean of awareness, you could say, or ocean of infinite consciousness. We're coming from a place of immortality, and then we just take a dip into the ocean that represents our life here on earth, and then we leave again after a very short period of time, because like 60 years isn't very long, or even if it's 90 years, and then we're back with the people that we love. So I believe that, and I could be completely wrong, but this is how I see it. My children watched me being born, they watched me grow up, they watched all the peculiarities of my childhood, which formed me, which created tendencies in me, and so on. And then they chose me to be their mum, with the Creator. I call it whatever you like to call it, whether you like to call it God, or infinite consciousness, or grace, or the prime creator, a higher being, designed all that already. That's the engineer, you could say. So my children chose me to be their mom, their incubator, basically. And so from an energetic point of view, if you look at the chakra system, because I work with the chakras as well, it's like the root chakra is already kind of sending out tiny little hair-like roots before the children are born, before they come into existence, even before conception. So they're probably scrutinizing the family tree and all the rest, and starting to create a foundation, which is probably all very subtle energy. And then by the time they are conceived, of course, the roots start to grow like crazy, and then by the time they're born into the family, they have an established base chakra root system that they build on over the course of their life. So if you're a parent and you're crushed by guilt, or feeling maybe sometimes hopelessness, stress, overwhelm, sometimes, well, just recently I worked with a mom when she was telling me about her child. She came for herself and she was talking about her child. She was crying to me, and I know that I've been in that place. I told her that when my number number 3 and 4 were little, so like I used to race around, take the eldest two to school, to the primary school, all up and down over this gravel road, 10 kilometers. I had a little baby, usually a little baby as well in the car, and Caleb and Eve, they are my 2 middle children. They used to just squabble and fight all day long because that was the energy that they had. And I used to cry every morning. I used to probably cry between 9 and 10 o'clock because I was so exhausted and exasperated with my life and confused, and I didn't know why things weren't working. But mind you, I had many happy moments as well. Of course, I'm just being vulnerable and open to you. It just wasn't easy. I didn't mind that it wasn't easy. I was happy enough to put in the hard yards, but I just didn't understand why my children were behaving the way they were when I thought it was all going to be happy and beautiful. So now I know life is messy. We come in with traumas from our ancestors that we volunteer literally to heal those traumas or to heal that trauma energy. And on top of that, we also have information from previous lifetimes that we've had. Even if you don't believe in past lives, it doesn't actually matter, because we also come in with stresses and traumas from the collective consciousness, from humanity, because even as we speak today, we know that people are in different countries, in different places of the world, people are starving, people are being tortured, children are being harmed, and so on. And we are not separate from that. It looks as if we are, but we're not. We are actually also absorbing that in our nervous system, and that also triggers personality traits in us. So how can you, knowing all that you know now, because we just shared it with you, how can you create a happy, harmonious life for yourself? Well, the most important thing is that you look after yourself. So fill up your own tanks as a mom or a dad or grandparent, it doesn't matter. Make sure you create balance in your life. If your frequency is like this, if you're shaky somewhere, it doesn't matter if you're shaky sometimes, but if you're always like parts of your life aren't working or things are out of balance inside your body, inside your being, it's having a big effect on your environment. And so one time, I learned this actually many years ago, it's probably 10 years ago. I had a little family that came in, so there was a grandmother, she was paying for the session, and she brought in her daughter and her 2 little granddaughters. So I had the 4 girls in the room. And so at the time I thought, all right, let's start with the youngest one first. But it was actually the wrong way to do it. But anyway, that's how I learned the hard way. So I started with the youngest girl, then I spent 10 minutes with the next child, then I spent 20 minutes or so with the daughter, who was probably in her 20s, and then the grandmother said, oh, that's enough now, that's enough, we're fine, I don't need any attention, which is like classic, of course, and lucky I can be very stubborn, and I said, no, I really need to check your energy as well, because I felt like something wasn't shifting for all of them. And so then it was the grandmother's turn to have a healing session and to upgrade her energy. And as soon as I started working with the grandmother, the other 3 girls literally melted. So they were crying, and we broke through something. I'm not saying that you always have to cry, but the whole point of healing is that something in us needs to dissolve. Something is coming up for healing. Usually it feels like, something that's unyielding in our nervous system that's blocking us, and it does need to dissolve. And often when it dissolves, people have a few tears, which is actually a beautiful thing. And then it's like all the channels are open. Now you can receive love again, and peace and harmony in life makes sense again. So after an hour, the whole 4 women had a session, and I realized then, okay, as the matriarch or patriarch of the family, even if you're not the biological parent, but if you've been a caretaker, you have such a powerful sway over the well-being of everyone in the pyramid, you could say, below you. So it is really, really important that you do your inner work and that you look at yourself with love and compassion. Your inner work actually means that you learn to love yourself unconditionally. And of course, no one will ever get there, right? No, I don't know anyone who loves themselves unconditionally, but just that you keep loving yourself as while through the difficulties, through the painful moments, through the ugly moments, even when your behavior is sometimes ugly, that you just keep loving yourself. So that's really doing your inner work, that you end up coming from a place of unconditional love and acceptance, and that it's easy for you to return to that place even when you've been thrown off kilter. So that's how you strengthen your own self. So if anyone is listening today and you feel like burdened by guilt, sometimes the guilt has been passed down for many generations as well, and it's literally just such a strong pattern in the energy that you need an energy healer to relieve it from you. Well, but when I think of my parents, I don't think they had any qualms about their parenting style, right? And certainly not their parents. My grandparents didn't, because people didn't have the luxury to question anything. They just had to survive and run with it. Like everyone was running on survival systems back in those days, because Europe was always like war torn. You know, it wasn't long after the Second World War, and then before the Second there was the First World War, and all those countries were constantly overrunning. Even today though, I don't have to go far back in any of my clients to find some sort of war trauma in their body as well. So I want you to know that the picture of your life, right, is much, much bigger than you can even imagine. And we only see 1% of reality with our human senses. So 99% of reality is just outside our perception. And you could say that's the realm of God or unconditional love, whatever you like to call it. And nothing in the universe is random. Everything is created by design. So, and you have to remember, you're not the engineer of this, but you are here to provide a safe container for yourself, show up as the wise guide, heal your inner child as well. As you heal your inner child, your children will benefit from that too, because they're tuning into all of that. All the lessons you learn, all the lessons you've learned automatically get put into your children as they're witnessing you, so they don't have to learn those lessons. So that's another really good reason to invest in yourself. Clean up your messes. Life gets messy, and it doesn't matter as long as you clean up your messes. So just to get back to my children, so I was guilt-ridden probably for between my 20s and 40s. I'm 61 now, so I started to work as a healer roughly at age 38, 39. And of course, that's when the ahas just came in thick and fast, and I developed my psychic abilities. And then, of course, I had that accident when I was hit by a truck, and I had a near-death experience, which really opened me up to the truth of who we are, right? And the truth of who we are is that there's part of us that never dies, even if we leave our body. And just think of it logically, right? If you were to lose an eye now, or an arm, or a leg, or a spleen, or your liver, or whatever, people lose body parts, but you are still there, aren't you? So when we finally leave our body, like I did when the truck hit me, it's like you're just stepping out of a costume, that's all, but you're not going anywhere. So I also feel like when we are putting effort in, or how do I say it, we really want to resolve some of the issues that our ancestors struggled with. Our ancestors are here to support us and to witness us and to guide us and to open doors, and they're so supportive of that process, because they don't probably like it that they passed unresolved issues off to us, if that makes any sense. So when I do healing work, I often feel the presence of my clients' ancestors in the room as well, and that is also, their energy helps me to heal you. So I think that's a beautiful thing. So when it comes to your children, this is the last thing that I wanted to say. You are key, that's true, but you're not the engineer, so you're not at fault of anything. Your children come in with their own programming already. The best thing you can do for your children is look after yourself, show up for yourself, love yourself, learn to put care into yourself, and then fill up your own cup. And as your cup fills, it's like the tide rises, all the boats rise, right? They rise along with you. So don't put yourself last, put yourself first. And then I just wanted to say, Tom, that's my youngest son. He's the only one. When he was about 4 or 5, I used to take him to a kinesiologist in Hobart because he was severely dyslexic. And perhaps as a result, because he had a form of meningitis when he had epiglottitis, which is caused by the same virus as meningitis, and he nearly died, and always felt like the stress and trauma of that changed something in him. So all my children were always super keen to go to school. They couldn't wait to leave home, go to school and get on with their lives. And they all turned out absolutely amazing, by the way. So, and Tom turned out amazing as well. But Tom didn't want to go to school, so I kept him home for a year, and he had anxiety, and then he had dyslexia. So I wasn't a healer at that point, so I used to take him to this healer in Hobart, which was like 3 hours drive. So she would promise to work on him, like say, all Friday night, and then maybe 5 or 6 hours Saturday morning. So he would have sometimes 8 or 10 hours worth of healing from her. And we did that a couple of times, and then after that I started healing my own children because I became a therapist myself. So Tom had the benefit of those healing sessions, and I always felt like that carried him through in his teenage years and his adult life, and I feel like he didn't ever have so many dramas or resistance as all the other children. So I think it's really important that as a parent, you know, there's that option that when children have healing sessions, it pays off. It's like paying it forward for their future. Like the things that are painful can be removed. The things that are painful that they come in with can be removed for them. So when they're teenagers, it's not hurting them as much. When they're teenagers and the energy changes, everything gets more intense. Those triggers aren't there. And so they can just cruise through their teenage years and enjoy life and, you know, become a more settled person in their adult life as well. That's really what I wanted to say too. I feel as if there was a lot more to say, but I hope that you got a bit of an idea of if you feel guilty as a parent. I can't say stop doing that, of course, because it's a process, but come and see me even for that maybe. But I want you to know you're doing as long as you're doing the best you can and show up as yourself, that's all your child needs, right? And you're doing great. And just remember, by the way, that you're a divine being as well, and that you're being looked after even in this moment. You're being looked after by your ancestors, people that you've lived with in other lifetimes, and they're supporting you and guiding you as well. So trust in yourself, believe in yourself, be kind to yourself, go softer, not harder. That's the right direction. And if you have issues with your children, they can be easily solved if you come to me. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I hope that you really enjoyed this session. If you have any questions, pop them in an email or in a message. Hope you have a really great week. Big love from me, and I look forward to being with you next week. Bye-bye.